I glorify the Lord who allowed me to die as a victim of human sacrifice and be buried, and return to this world after 3 years in order to speak about what I saw. I can afford to say I know the unseen world because I lived there for 3 years. People ask me if ancient gods have horns and are monstrous. In truth, while I was living in the realm of the fallen, ancient gods were humanoid, for they look human, but it is when they want to fulfill their purpose of destruction of men in the world, that they become monstrous and they turn to serpent, dragon and reptiles. Even their leader Lucifer was humanoid, though he can take many shape and appear like a child or youngster. Living in the realm of the fallen, I had access to the mysteries of the universe, that Satanist could not access, simply because Satanists come to this magical world of fantasy and return to earth. Lucifer built a fantastic civilization where there is no day and no night, for it is a seductive and shining world of technology and advancement. But I was dead and I was supposed to end the years of my life in this mysterious world of fallen angels underwater. For the goddess of love Magdalene, it was crystal clear that I would never return to live a normal life in the land of human to tell their secret because I was officially dead. Thus I had many access, and today many people go to visit my grave where I was buried, but there is nothing inside that coffin. Since I knew the mysteries of fallen angels, Lucifer himself turned up in the day of my liberation to stop pastors from releasing me from his grip. Lucifer is the god of this world. When he come for confrontation, he always use intimidation, causing natural phenomena like earthquake. On that day in the church the place shook and many pastors ran away because the land would not stop shaking. The enemy wanted to capture me in order to stop me from revealing hidden mysteries of the realm of the fallen. I was an inhabitant of the submarine kingdom, where I was enrolled in the army of Satan. After receiving training, I was deployed to Earth to cause destruction of God people. I became a soldier of the devil, attacking Christian and destroying lives. I was supposed to fall in the place of torment once I reached the numbers of years that God has allocated to me. I had died premature death. First I became a wandering and a revenant, and I was taken to the world of those who fell from heaven, the marine civilization. One day I was together with my colleagues in this world of the fallen ones. One of my colleagues started to tell us about his family that he has left on the earth. He said that when he had died he left a wife and children on the face of the earth, but he found out that his wife and his children are in suffering, so he feels obligated to do something for them, so as to soothe and relieve their suffering, for we had the capacity to operate spiritually and physically at the surface of the earth. Considering the fact that his wife and children suffered on earth, my colleague wrote a letter to his wife and he put money in the envelope, and then he went to the surface of the earth so as to drop off the envelope at the door of their house, where his wife and children were living. When his wife woke up in the morning, she found the wrap at the door. She opened it and she saw a package of US dollars and a letter. When she opened the letter she noticed her late husband's handwriting. She was amazed. Then she began to read the letter from her husband, that says the following: "Honey, I am your husband. I know that you and the children are suffering. This is the reason why I sent you this money, so you can take care of my children. Do not be afraid because I am not dead. I'm fine where I am. Take the money and take care of the children." This woman was afraid, so she took the envelope and went to her pastor. She explained that her late husband that died many years ago has sent her this letter and money, but she is afraid to use it. The pastor warned this woman that this money was dangerous, and the pastor took that money and kept for himself. Yet this pastor went to use the money for his needs. In fact, he shared this money with other pastors and they have used them for their needs. In the meantime, we were watching everything in a huge screen in the world of fallen angels beneath the ocean. My colleague was not happy to see these pastors enjoying his money. When he saw that his wife and children did not benefit from his money, he attacked these pastors through traffic accident and they all died in a car accident. In fact, I participated in this operation where we traveled to Earth to cause this traffic accident that killed these pastors. Later my friend traveled on the surface of the Earth with an envelope and dropped it in front of the house door of his family. In fact, he had written to his wife another letter that says, "My dear, if you don't want to use my money, let my kids enjoy my money. Let me inform you that I am the one who killed these pastors who died in a traffic accident. because they spent my money on their needs. For a second time his wife took the envelope containing money notes to another pastor. When this pastor read the letter, especially the part where it talks about the death of pastors by accident, he was afraid he didn't want to keep or even touch that money. The lady returned home with the money. She used the money to take care of the children and nothing bad happened to her. Then it became a habit for my colleague to deposit the envelope of money for his wife and children each week. This meant that this woman could not get married because her husband who had died was caring for her. Those who tried to unite with this woman in marriage were dying. In fact, the devil knew I would be a servant of God, so he tried to interrupt my life prematurely. Brethren, my death was not a natural death but a masquerade, perpetrated by wizards. The whole thing began when we had noticed that our uncle had become relatively rich in a short time. We attributed this to his business ability and skills, but it was not so, for he had resorted to the occult and black magic to excel in business. He wanted to become a great businessman, so he has looked for a shortcut using occultism. As a result, he was supposed to offer human beings as sacrifice to excel and prosper in his business. Back then we had a lot of servants and maids at home. He targeted one of them. Then a few days later one of our housekeeper fell seriously ill. My cousin wanted to sacrifice him to the devil for his business. When we noticed that his health was deteriorating despite receiving medical treatment, I suggested that he find some men of God for prayer. Once my cousin the Satanists has heard of my suggestion, he was irritated and began to insult me. I couldn't understand his attitude, but my cousin was already deep in occultism, and he knew the power of prayer. The Bible says that the fervent prayer of just has high efficiency. It's after visiting a church in the neighborhood that our servant was delivered and healed from the mystical illness, and our maid persevered in prayer in the presence of God. Since he had become out of reach, my cousin the Satanist realized that he had lost his prey, so he decided to sacrifice me in the place of our servant. Since I am the one who suggested to our servant to go to church, I therefore became the prey to be sacrificed to the devil. My cousin used money he had bewitched as a tool of destruction against me. He gave me $5, but this money was cursed. In fact, my cousin had bought my soul with that money that was bewitched. The next day I fell ill. The doctors could not diagnose the disease that tormented me. It was a sickness of mystical origin. I remember from the day my cousin gave me the money, I have started having strange dreams, where I saw people putting me in the coffins, and I kept dreaming cemeteries and coffins. Later I saw in my dreams weird people laughing at me. They told me, "You are going to die, Matthew, you are finished." I was transported from one hospital to another. At some point I said, as modern medicine cannot do nothing for me, I must resort to prayer. My family transported me to church, where I saw the effectiveness of prayer because my health had improved. I stay under supervision of men of God. But when my cousin the sorcerer has learned that I was transferred to church, he became uncomfortable. He sent demonic spirits to manipulate my family. As a result, my family came to take me from church because they were influenced by demon. The next day the illness returned. It was worse than before. I was therefore transported to university clinic, but the doctors were amazed when they saw my condition that deteriorated despite their efforts. Few hours later I saw my spirit going out of my body. I died prematurely as a victim of witchcraft, human sacrifice. Indeed, Lucifer is always looking for a human spirit in order to use them as demons. These days many evil spirits who are at war against Christians and humanity are human spirit. I mean human beings who are dead before their time. They are then enrolled in the diabolical army of Lucifer. Even if they are officially dead, they remain operational on the surface. We are at war against demonic spirits and human spirits. The Satanists constantly offers human sacrifices to the devil, and the victims are rounded up and transported to the kingdom of the devil for training for battle against the church and humanity, until that they reach the number of years God gave them. On the day of my burial in the cemetery, after the departure of everyone, I was left alone in the graveyard. It was black hot in the coffin. When it was late in at night, I heard a craze of people on the surface, as if there were of a group of people very late in the cemeteries. These people introduced a stick that penetrated my coffin. Then I heard someone who called my name. He raised his voice and said, "Matthew, comes out." When this called me for the third time, something happened. Actually, my corpse came out the coffin and I was once again standing on the ground. I came back to life and I was full of strength. The mystical illness that killed me was left. I returned to my body. In a blink of an eye I saw a number of people in the cemeteries dressed in black waiting in the queue. These souls were under the control of wizards who were their hangmen. Among these wizards' executioners I noticed the presence of my cousin, the evil businessman. When saw my cousin among these wizards, I tried to question him about what was happening here, for all this was like a film for me, but I was beaten like an animal and I was instructed to keep quiet. I always warn, you must never die in the hands of wizard. The victims of witchcraft are tortured in an intense and atrocious way. In fact, you are going to spend the rest of your life in tortures because you will be a slave. My cousin was cold and heartless, deprived of human feeling towards me, as if he never knew me. We need to know that when the wizard are in operational mode at night, they become as ruthless like demon, lacking empathy and compassion. After being beaten severely, I was instructed to join people dressed in black who were in the queue. As soon as I joined those people dressed in black, we have instantly changed the location. In fact, these people in black were victims of human sacrifice like me. Soon as we left the cemetery, we landed in the astral world of witches, in the headquarters where slaves transaction take place. Indeed, every human being who had died as a victim of human sacrifice becomes slave in the invisible world. I found myself among this crowd of people who had died as a result as human sacrifice. They were devoid of their identity and they had become slaves. This place was truly a slave market where wizards and the Satanists sold and bought souls of men and women victim of sacrifice. All these slaves were dressed in black short and were shirtless. At my arrival, I was ordered to put the black short that had a specific number, just like inmate. Since I had lost my identity, I was identified by the number of my short. While I was in this slave market, I noticed that all these slaves were gathered in groups relative to their strength. Once I put on his black short, thing happens to me. My humanity was captured. I lost consciousness of myself. My memory was lobotomized. I did not know who I was, where I came from. I had lost my human identity and I received a new identity, that of a slave. A few days later, we were still there in the slaves' market where many slaves waited to be bought. Finally, a command of 4 slaves was placed in the market. These 4 slaves were to go to work on the land. I was instructed to join of the 3 other slaves that were selected, and we were transported to the surface of the earth in order to work as servant for the shops of the goddess and queens of waters. When we arrived on Earth, I was surprised to find that we were in the city of Bamboo, a big city in north of our country where there are a lot of commercial activities. My father often brought me in this city for the purchase of a lot of articles and I recognized the city. Chapter 3: My life on the surface of the Once we arrived on the Earth, each of us was assigned to a store he had to manage. Once that I started working in this store, I employed 4 people, who had to work with me. These workers did not know that their leader was a ghost, a dead man. I was in a situation where I was dead and officially buried but was sent back to Earth to work several kilometers from my region. I was supposed to receive the items for sale from the world of Satan and return the money every Saturday. While I managed this store, I was still in black short and was bare chest, but my workers and the customers who frequented this store did not perceive me that way, for they saw me well dressed up. Their natural and optic vision only captured the wrong identity and appearance that I had adopted. They saw me as a normal man well dressed, but in reality I was always in my short and shirtless. Only those who are advanced in occultism that could identify me as a ghost and see my true nature. Every day after the sale we closed the store and we spent the night in nightclubs, bars and hotels. When we went to this bar and hotels we slept with women. Sometimes I took these women home, but in reality we did not have home. We were sleeping in the cemetery, but the perception and the optical vision of these women were manipulated because she perceived the cemetery common neighborhoods and she saw tombstones as houses. I slept with women on the tomb. Very often these women wake up in the morning in the cemetery over the stones tombs. Their lives were destroyed. I was operating as a revenant, living on the earth with another appearance. I sold in a store where customers saw me as a normal man. Only those who were advanced in occultism that could identify me as a ghost and see my true nature. Then I went on to become a fiancé of a girl. Since I could assume various identities, I had become engaged with a girl who got attached to me because of the money. She thought she was dealing with a businessman. She could not know that I was officially dead and buried. This girl ends up disappearing from the face of the earth and was taken up to the world of Satan. I deeply regret her disappearance and I am sorry for her family that will not see her again, not even his corpse. When I was still a Revenant far from my family, one day I saw my father but he couldn't see me because I was invisible in this boat where he was traveling, but I was just at his side because I wanted to see him, and I was happy. I was able to be invisible and disappear for I was as an invisible spirit. I would like to point out that anyone that has been subjected to rituals, customs and traditions has the door of his life wide opened, and these doors caught our attention, for we were attacking only those who have opened doors of their lives. I was truly a demonic spirit. I could come to your house and steal your money even if you hid it. Every time I gave someone money I captured his chances, his wealth and his star. In life you must not accept the money from the person you don't know. He can buy your life with that money. So I lived 6 months on the surface of the earth. You should know that God has assigned to each human being a specific number of years to live on the land, but wizards and Satanists who travel to the parallel of Satan know precisely the year in which they are supposed to die. I mean the satanic world know approximately the number of years that God gave to every human being to live on the earth, and since I lived in the world of Satan for 3 years, I know how many years am I supposed to live on earth. In the conflict and war that opposes the kingdom of light to that of darkness, the devil enroll in his army that are dying prematurely for they cannot go to the abode of the dead. I remember when I was selling in this store, one day my former teacher came to buy stuff in my store. He couldn't recognize me because I had assumed another appearance and identity. I could recognize him. While he was shopping, I asked my workers to give him some household appliances as a gift. He was astonished and suspicious. He could not accept and understand all this. He tells me, "Sir, I don't know you, but how can you give me all these items for free?" Finally I decided to reveal my identity to him, and when he saw my face he was terrified and screamed my name. He said, "Matthew, you are already dead." He was so terrified that he ran away. He even abandoned the stuff he came to buy. Afterwards he went to inform my family about what he saw. There was confusion in the family. Revenant assume appearances and identity depending on the place where they are deployed. If they are sent to work in the field in Europe they will assume the appearance of white people and they will be seen as white by optical eye. My clients could not imagine that I was an undead from the unseen world. Many are corporations and companies that belongs to the kingdom of darkness. The bosses and leaders are not necessarily ordinary men. One day while I worked in this store I saw a phone and a particular number. It was actually my cousin's store number, the one who have killed me in sacrifice. When I called this number he was absent but I talked to his little sister who was present. I said, "Julia, I'm your brother Matthew." She replied, "No, you are not, for Matthew is already dead." But gradually as I insisted she fell into a coma due to panic, and she was transported to the hospital. And when she came out of the coma she told the family what had happened. People did not know what to make of this. Already my teacher told them the same story. Few months ago I called the same number again. Julian received me on the phone. She was overwhelmed by events. I told her, "Julia, go home and tell my parents to send me clothes because I'm here bare chest and half naked." Julia was so terrified that she cut off the phone. When my cousin heard about this, the world of witches delegated someone who took my phone and warned me not to use the phone again. Not all humans in the street are ordinary men. I was already functioning as a human spirit in the service of the kingdom of Satan.